Hello, my friends. This is Laura Whitney, one of the marriage and family therapists at Cache Valley Counseling. Just wanted to share some thoughts with you today. I've been kind of thinking about things that come up a lot in sessions with my clients. So I took a few notes and I'll just kind of be chatting a little bit about that. A lot of course, that we deal with in therapy is some of the harder emotions, right? And I was working with a couple clients in a row where some similar thoughts came up for me. And I started thinking about what I'm calling the trifecta of mental health issues. So the first one would be like a really powerful kind of primal feeling that we would consider negative, right? So this could be a feeling of loneliness, worthlessness, failure, feeling that we're unlovable, we can't ever get it right. Like one of these really deep heart emotions that we feel. Um, the second item would then be feeling that nobody else feels this way. Nobody else has this problem. Nobody else understands. I call it the comparison trap, right? Like nobody else knows how bad this feels. Or the opposite comparison is, I shouldn't be feeling this bad. My problems aren't that bad. Other people have it worse, right? So that comparison kind of in either direction can trip us up. And then the third part of that trifecta is feeling like it's always going to be this way. It's never going to change. And it brings on this feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. And that's where we kind of really get into this danger zone, right? Like at any time, any one of us could have one or two or three of these particular issues going on, right? But when we have all three of them at the same time, that's when we're really struggling with depression, with just this sense of my life's never going to get any better, right? And those are hard things to deal with. Everybody gets sad, everybody gets the blues, but there's kind of a smaller grouping of people that get this really deep despair, this deep depression that comes and goes. Sometimes it's a situational thing, and sometimes it's just sort of inexplicable. It just sweeps over us, right? I've suffered from depression myself, and I'll talk to my clients about. I consider myself a depression survivor, right? But I wish I had a recipe to give everybody. But it's a little bit different for everybody, so I try to talk about having a toolbox where we can have as many things in there as possible to help us. But I also talk about feeling like this is an episode or a flare up or something like that. That I can tell myself, okay, my depression's here, but it's not going to stay. It always leaves again. So I can know that as soon as I feel it coming on, right? Like instead of feeling this desperate, oh, I'm in this place again, I can be like, okay, well, here it is, but it's going to do its thing and then it's going to move on. And in the meantime, I'm going to use all the tools that I can think of to try to help me in this place. So those tools can be getting some more rest or getting some more exercise. It could be making sure I eat healthy, drink a lot of water, or it might just be that I'm going to let myself have the potato chips and the chocolate and the Diet Dr. Pepper, knowing this is one of my coping skills and I'm owning it, right? Like I'm not going to let myself feel guilty for doing it. And so if we know that this is something that we can work through, that we get to make ourselves an active part of the process instead of feeling maybe victimized by it, that is a huge difference for us. It makes a big difference. As we try to have relationships with the people in our lives that are important, right? I was talking to some clients, a couple, and realizing we can't save each other, right? We all have to do our own work, but we can sure try to show up and be there for others. Um, so it's our job to try to create the safe space that we are approachable, we're not judging, we're just loving people where they are, right? But other people get to choose if they feel safe walking into that space. And this is particularly hard when someone we love is dealing with shame. We just want to shower them with love and all the good things that we see about them. We want to give them compliments and tell them, you shouldn't be feeling that way. But when we tell someone you shouldn't be feeling that way, that just adds to the shame, right? That adds to these hard feelings. So to be able to create the safe space and then choose to let our loved one enter or not, that's a hard thing to do. Um, but it's important to recognize that that's all we can do. All we can do is be safe, create safety, and understand that if somebody can't choose to enter the safe space that we were trying to create, then they're still sensing danger somewhere. and that's okay. That's part of their experience. Um, and sometimes we just need to offer to sit next to those we love as they're struggling with their stuff and say, I don't understand why you hate yourself, but I see that it's real for you, and I'm just going to sit here next to you in this place and love you in it. And that can be hard to do when we want to fix things. For so many of us, it's just so instinctive to try to fix things. Another thing I like to talk about with my clients is what I call humble confidence. For a lot of us, it seems to be that we feel like we're not allowed to feel okay. We're not allowed to feel good about ourselves. There's a fear of being proud or arrogant, or there's just sort of this code running in the background of our brain supercomputer telling us you've got to kind of keep being derogatory about yourself. You've got to keep beating yourself up. That's the right thing to do. But it's actually okay to be confident. It's okay to believe in ourselves and know that we will figure out life's hard things and we will get through the hard things. But the trick is that to add in this beautiful component of humility. And the way I describe it with my clients is I'm on a path in life, and I can look behind me and see where I've been and what I've gotten through and how many logs I've tripped over and how many times I might have sprained an ankle on this path, right? I might have been whacked in the head by a tree branch, but I've gotten through it, and I am where I am today, and I can look behind me and gain confidence from that. I can see what I've accomplished on my own, and with the help of the people around me and all the resources that I have in my life, I can see how far that I've come and how I've not only survived, but I've been able to thrive in this place. But I still want to look ahead of me of where I'm going. And I look to this mountaintop ahead of me, and I'm like, that's where I want to go, though. I'm not there yet. And that's where I get the humility. We're never done growing. We're here to learn, and we're here to progress as human beings and try to do better every day. And so I'm going to look behind me and gain my confidence, and I'm going to look ahead of me and maintain my humility. And that humble confidence is going to move with me on the path. I get to take that with me. That's my little backpack that I can take with me. And I can be scared and I can feel all the hard things, but I can ground myself and realize it's okay. I can do this. I have figured out how to get this far in life, and I will figure out how to get the rest of the way. Talking about this backpack we carry, sometimes we talk about a backpack in a negative way, right? We can think about all the hard things in life that we've been through. Maybe people being abusive, unkind, or we've lost people because they've chosen not to be in our life, or because they've passed away. We lose jobs. We struggle in relationships. Like all of these hard things we might carry as a rock in our backpack, but sometimes we can just choose to set those down at the side of the path, right? As we're going to keep moving forward and trying to get to that mountaintop, we can choose to only put the humble confidence in our backpack and set down the rocks of guilt and unworthiness and all those negative hard things, and just say, it's just dragging me down. It's no longer building muscles, it's just dragging me down. So I'm going to set these things down on the side of my path. Sometimes on our path, it's okay to just sit and rest too. We're generally always moving forward, but sometimes we need to allow ourselves to just sit at the side of the path and rest. Rest those muscles, rest our minds and hearts. Sometimes we have to sit and rest because someone close to us has to sit and rest. So we're going to sit and rest with them. And then one of us decides, okay, can we get up and walk now? Let's do this together, right? And we all get to kind of be aware of our own energy level and whether we need to rest or whether we need to move. I tell a story sometimes to my clients about when I finished grad school and I was so exhausted, and I just rested until I felt this sluggishness, and then I decided, oh, okay, it's time for me to get up and start working again. And we just need to be aware of what's happening inside of us. I also wanted to talk about things that you can look for as you're trying to improve in life, right? Like things that you can look for to see, like, maybe this isn't helping me in life. So one of them is what I call assigning motive or mind reading, right? Like, and a lot of that can be like, oh, well, this person, they're just always annoyed by me, and so I'm going to try to avoid them. Or this person hates me, or this person's just trying to make my life difficult. That's sort of assigning the motive of another person or thinking we can read their mind. It doesn't help us. it makes things harder for us. Sometimes we might be right, so what? Most of the time we're actually wrong when we get to really understand someone's motivation, what's driving them, the path that they've walked to get them to where they are. Almost everybody's dealing with their own stuff and they're not really trying to hurt anybody else. So to realize I don't actually know what somebody else is thinking. And so if I am going to make an assumption, I'm going to go positive. I'm going to assume that they like me. I'm going to assume that if they're acting poorly, that there's a reason that they're doing that. That's something inside them that's hurting. And so maybe I'm not going to keep throwing rocks back at them. Maybe I'm just going to just be nice. Or sometimes I'll call it like setting down my end of the tug of war rope. I'm just not going to engage in this anymore. Another thing that you can look for and see if you do this is sort of an all or nothing thinking pattern. Um, it's never going to be good enough, or we're fighting, which means we're doomed. The relationship is just going to end. It's always like this, or it's never going to get any better. These big all or nothing encompassing statements. When we're doing that, we're doing harm to ourselves, okay? And we're doing harm to the people around us. So try to catch yourself if you're doing that and see if you can be a little bit more realistic about it. Um, we talk in therapy a lot about the probability versus possibility. Like if we're afraid of something bad happening, what's the probability of it happening versus possibility? I can't promise you nothing bad's going to happen, right? But what's the probability of it happening? The third thing that I wanted to have you look for is, are you making generalized or non-specific comments? I notice this on social media a lot, and sometimes they'll be like, well, they're just trying to do this. They're just trying to do that. And I'm like, who is they? Like, there's not some all imperial they out there running the world, right? It's just a bunch of people trying to figure it out. Maybe they have bad intentions, but probably they actually don't. Or it's not as organized and empirical as you think it is, right? Like, just kind of watch for that. It kind of goes with all or nothing, but this non-specific things that just seem to bring up big emotions, you can kind of start questioning when you see that stuff. And in particular, if you're using it, like, it's okay to share facts, it's okay to share information, but if it's just sort of this big, goopy, generalized statement, probably not helpful to the conversation. So you can watch for that. The last topic I wanted to touch on was the idea of scarcity versus abundance. I was working with a sweet client that has not had a good life, right? Like, she's always been told she's not loved. That's always been the message, right? From her own family. So she's lived in an emotional scarcity, right? Not having enough love. And a lot of times we think of a scarcity mindset as not having enough food or something like that. But it applies with this too. She didn't get enough emotional support. She didn't get enough input coming in to tell her system that she was in a place of safety. So now everything she looks for is kind of with that scarcity mindset, with good reason, because her system had to learn you're not going to be given these emotional things that you need. So you're going to have to hunker down and protect yourself. So we sometimes have to train ourselves to have an abundance mindset and look around us for the things that are good, are filling, are taking care of us, are keeping us safe. And that's going to be the people that we choose to have in our life that are supportive and loving and safe for us. That could also be temporal things that we can do around us to help us feel safe. But to start to be aware of, am I having a scarcity mindset emotionally, or am I having an abundance mindset emotionally? So these little tips to just kind of be aware of how you're doing, right? Just little check-ins. This is how we progress. This is how we keep moving forward. It just breaks my heart if I have a client and their spouse won't come in with them. It's just an absolute shutdown no. And I'm like, ugh, they're just so shut down and so afraid of having to deal with the hard emotions, right? So you can start doing some of this on your own in little ways, looking for what signs am I giving myself about who I am, how I'm doing, how the world is. Having those honest conversations with ourselves can really help us make some progress on the path of life. So I wish you all the best on your path of life. If you need any help, please come on in and visit us. We are so happy to help you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.